What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Cyndi Lauper as we continue through this expanded version of her album Shine. Thank you as always to Seb. And the next tune in the playlist is Valentino, which sounds like a name. I would guess a surname. I suppose it could be a given name. Maybe it's a more common term, but if it is, I am ignorant in that regard, so I don't really know what to expect because it sounds like a proper noun and it is a single word title. Let's give it a listen. This is Cyndi Lauper and the track is Valentino from the expanded version of her 2001 album Shine.
Way back in
truly fascinating song, both lyrically and sonically. Sonically, it had this blurred out, like, overexposed sort of sound, not in a bad way, but it felt like everything was like in hypercolor. Everything was a bit brighter and was like bleeding into the larger soundscape, that it was hard to isolate certain noises. Often when I listen to music, whether we're talking like a techno track or a synth pop tune, my brain starts highlighting and isolating the different sonic elements, even if I can then flip a switch and hear them all as a unitary whole. But in this track, I was actually like struggling to do that. It was like everything was blurring into itself. Now, there was that shift about, I don't know, halfway through or thereabouts, where suddenly the percussion came in a bit stronger and it felt more like a, synth pop meets R&B type of tune. But for a lot of the duration of the track, before that and after that, it had this like, the everything is so bright, it's kind of blurring itself out. So it was a really interesting sonic atmosphere. And lyrically, or rather, vocally, Cyndi seemed to deliver a lot of the song in a way not altogether similar to a lot of other vocal performances I've heard her give. She had this, like, she was sort of breathily getting everything out, and it was like she was almost like running through her thoughts, but singing them at the same time. So a really interesting vocal performance from her. I will say one sonic detail that did stand out was the bass. Like, the bass line really had this full and powerful type of feel to it, even as everything else was doing all that it was above it. So yeah, the bass did stand out. Lyrically, I'm intrigued because I feel like there's maybe a personal narrative here, but then suddenly I wondered if there was some personification happening. Either way, it sounds like there is this young man in Italy, Valentino, and I suppose with that name, I had a sense maybe that we're dealing with something or someone Italian, but that, okay, so like, he's coming to visit her, he's like bringing her something, though I didn't hear that clearly, and then it was like, wait, so he's marrying someone else, and I wondered if she said like it was one of his cousins. And then she's eventually talking about like multiple generations, like 3 generations passing, and she was talking about her daughter who was saying something to her, and I was wondering whether like, he was the one who got away from her, like the one who, she always wondered if there was something there, and it sounds like he was maybe interested, but then they kind of had their own separate lives, but then even after multiple generations, she's still waiting for him to come back. But then I thought like maybe this is a personification and it's not really like a one-to-one narrative, but it might be speaking about, generations of a family. So yeah, I don't quite know how to read the lyrics, and part of it is I was so enraptured by the sonic environment that I didn't follow all the lines, or I couldn't hear them clearly on a first listen. But a really interesting tune, and one that seems like neither her, classic or most famous 80s synth pop sort of vibe, but nor the 90s pop meets R&B type of flavor like on Sisters of Avalon. So a really interesting track for multiple reasons. Curious to hear what Seb or any others have to say about it. Let me know, and I will see you for the next one. Peace.